Okay, Steve, are we all ready to go? We all set up?
We
Hello?
are all set and live on the other platforms also.
All right, great, great. Hello, Alejandra. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to participate in this event today.
I am glad you came. Where did you come from? What organization are you with?
KPMG in Orlando, Florida.
Ooh, okay. All right. All right. How's Mickey doing up there? Mickey and Minnie.
Exactly. Yes. We are neighbors.
All right. All right. All right. Well, we're down here in Fort Lauderdale, and we're starting to pull people in from around the country and around the world, and the conversation is always exciting. And we're rolling into 2 o'clock. We're going to get started in just a moment. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm Gail Birks, and I'm going to be your tour guide on this journey. And seeing that it is 2 o'clock and Steve is giving me the wave here, and I want to get started in this month's open mic with Gail Birks. I am extremely excited this month because I have a lady who's going to join me to talk about what's on your mind, leaders and executives. And this lady's name is Dr. Joy Vaughan. I'm going to tell you a little quick piece about her. But before that, I'll give you a little piece about who we are at CMA. We're a consulting and advisory company. I'm the founding principal. We're celebrating 32 years in business. And we started this initiative this year because I wanted leaders and executives to have a voice and not just listen to a talking head. So ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, the only rule of thumb that I have for you is don't be shy. We have 30 to 45 minutes of conversation, and it is open mic, as the term signifies. But without further ado, it is my honor to introduce to you Dr. Joy Vaughan. She is a passionate brain and behavior specialist who specializes in shifting minds one union at a time, one neuron at a time. Did I say that right, Dr. Joy?
You did.
Okay. She is a native of Barbados. She's a graduate of Columbia University and Nova Southeastern Universities, where I had the pleasure of witnessing her walking the stage to get that doctorate. I was probably the loudest one in the arena, but that's okay. She is an author of Powerful People, Powerful Lives, the 7-Step Empowerment series for the secular and Christian souls, as well as a recent book that I was a part of called The Art of Resiliency, Phoenixes Rising. Powerful, powerful stories of how people have reinvented. You know, Dr. Joy, oh my gosh, you know, I've been waiting for this a long time so we could go public with these private conversations that we have.
Absolutely.
Today, we're going to be talking about knowing your worth and your value proposition. I'm going to turn the microphone over to you and just let you run with it. And I'll jump in when I can catch up, and I'm going to open the window of opportunity conversation to everybody else. So without further ado, Dr. Joy, have at it.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you so much for having me. Welcome, everybody. You know, Gail had gone back and forth with this whole concept of what exactly is a value proposition? Like, what is that? So, you know, I like to have, when I do these, I like to have an interaction. So let me hear from you. What do you guys think a value proposition is? And what do you think your value proposition is? So again, what is a value proposition? And what do you think your particular value proposition is?
You know what, Dr. Joy, I think, you know, let's take it back a step, because
Okay.
a lot of times people don't really know or understand, especially as leaders, because we're so busy rising and doing what that definition of a value proposition really is.
It's really the value that you bring to company, but more importantly, the value you bring to yourself.
Mhm.
Everything starts with you before you can then give it away to other people. And when I say give it away, I don't mean willy-nilly. I mean actually share it with a new business, even if it's your own business, a new company that you want to go after, knowing what you are worth, not just financially, but what your character is worth is so very important. All of that makes up your value proposition.
Yeah, I agree. You know, and also when you talk about the journeys that you have been on, not just the great journeys that we all want to talk about and share, but those that may have had some huge potholes and even on occasion some sinkholes in the road that add to the value proposition that we bring, the worth that we bring, the contributions that we bring to wherever we are, whether it's at home, whether it's in our own businesses, whether it's within the companies that we work in. That whole value proposition, once we become conscious of it, what you say is making sure that we can then verbalize it. That's the hard part. That's the hard part.
Most people, when they think of value, they think of money. This is not about money. And money can be a part of it, but it's how valuable are you to a company? And how valuable is the company to you? So wherever you are, I don't know where everybody is and what they're working. If you haven't thought about that, it's what value do you think you are bringing to the company? And what value do you think the company is bringing to you? Recently, I've had the opportunity to coach a lot of people that are really unhappy in their jobs. They want to change, they want to become entrepreneurs. During this pandemic, they've had some time to do some soul searching. So they're really looking at, okay, who am I? And where am I at this time in my life? And what do I want to do for the rest of my life? Particularly executives in the middle management area, the mature, what I call the mature executives, who maybe downsize or have a change of life. Like, what is it that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? I'm still young, I'm still vibrant, but I'm not really sure, number one, what my value is at this time and who would value me. Because I sure don't want to go back to earning $20,000, which is what they want to give me. That's not going to happen. But then how do I find a company that values what I bring to the table? And how do I not compromise my value so much that it really is not even worth it to go after the job? That's what I'm seeing in my industry.
Yeah, you know, that it is just so appropriate that you say that. And, you know, when I was in corporate, it was like, no matter what I did, no matter how much I developed, it never seemed to be enough. But being the stubborn person that I am and knowing that I had goals to achieve, suddenly entrepreneurship didn't seem such a bad idea after all. And I started looking and thinking about, well, what is it that I can truly bring to the table out here in business, and business and industry will grab onto it. And once I did that, I sat down and began to write my offerings and tested it out. But the whole thing was, once I stepped out, I realized my worth and my value proposition. And I'll tell you, 32 years later, the stock has only risen. And you have to decide, what's the risk of letting my stock rise? Do I want it to rise? And will everybody be accepting of me? Well, they're not. If they're not accepting of you inside, you still are going to run into those same people on the outside. But if you understand what your worth is, your work, what am I bringing to the table? It's like a potluck dinner. Everybody's got to bring a dish. Is your dish empty at the end of the dinner?
Mm.
That means you brought something valuable to the audience. So what are you bringing?
That's an excellent question, because right now, I think things have shifted. Correct me if I'm wrong, ladies and gentlemen. People are looking for you to bring, yes, your skill sets, but more importantly, your character. So what is the character that you bring in? The honesty, the integrity, the ability to not cut corners, being able to get along with others. Of course, we know that, I'm going to say that people who are on this call have that, but then where else can you take it? So where else can you take that, those underlying skills? I hear from companies all the time, what's missing from our employees is not their skills, but their soft skills.
Yeah.
It's the soft skills that we can't teach people soft skills. You don't have the time, you just need to get the job done. But the soft skills are what is really missing. And it's little things like being on the cell phone at work, or things that you wouldn't think, a company would care about, but people are always watching.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. And, I still encourage people, don't be shy. We have to know that there is that opportunity, and there is a certain grace that you have to bring. And as a woman of color, as a woman of high aspirations, there are certain expectations that people look for in my value proposition. It has to be crisp. It has to be unflawed. You have to understand the rules of engagement. I see Maurice Arnold here jumping in. How you doing, my friend? Talk to Dr. Joy.
Hello.
Hey.
Well, I'm full of joy right now.
All right.
Come on, I'm here to rejoice.
Amen.
Hey, Joy, I got a question for you. Two questions, actually. One deals with soft skill. My first question would be along the lines of, what will you consider as the most critical soft skill? That's one question. And could you break down the components, separate question, could you break down the components that should be within a value proposition?
Okay.
So that I could systematically, begin to, craft that.
Very good. Yeah. The number one I would say is integrity. Integrity is doing what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, and on time. And if you cannot, or you will not be able to fulfill on that, to speak up and say immediately, I will not be able to do it, but here is when I can get this to you, and then manage that. The number one soft skill is integrity. The second soft skill I would say is the ability to be on time. 9 o'clock is very 9 o'clock, and 9 o'clock is 15 minutes too late. The third soft skill is be professional. So what do I mean by that? The number one thing is emotional intelligence, managing your emotions. Being able to, when a client does not agree with you, when your boss ticks you off, to be able to manage your emotions, not with a quick comeback, but a thoughtful comeback that will help the boss see. Because one of the things is to be able to be over there with whomever you're speaking to and really get what they're coming from and not be triggered by what they say, but to really evaluate, let me just see if what they're saying is correct. And learn the value of the pregnant pause. Let me think about that. You don't need to come back quickly, even though you're triggered. Give yourself time to process what has been said to you. I'm on the right track, sir?
Hey, I love that, especially the pregnant pause when it comes to emotional intelligence and not being triggered. You know, Daniel Goleman, the architect of emotional intelligence, made a statement. He said that people are hired because of intelligence, but fired because of behavior.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that's what you said is very important. But then the other piece about the value proposition, what are the components of the value proposition? That's what I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, it's what you bring to the table. And I'm saying that it's not just what you know. Like you can have great knowledge, but if you don't manage yourself with your soft skills, nobody's going to pay attention to your knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing that's so precious, are you coachable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you coachable?
And I think that's the key, especially with leaders and executives. You can never forget from whence you've come.
Mm.
And if you look at all of the successful leaders out there, the people who have sustained for years on end, the one I always look at is Warren Buffett. The humility that he brings, you know, and I find it hard to attach that to anyone else out there, but I always come back to Warren Buffett. And the humility you have to keep. It's part of your value proposition if you're sitting in those leadership capacities or you aspire to be a part of it. That all falls into your value proposition. If you're coming into that leadership, you got to know what you're doing. So, you know, the technical side, Dr. Joy, would you say that that's probably kind of a given?
That's a given, and that's teachable.
And that's teachable.
You have to do a skill. I can't know how to be kind and courteous and not pop off at a customer.
Right.
That you have to manage. And I can teach you that because I do that. I do teach emotional intelligence to people. But that's something that you yourself have got to want.
Mm-hmm.
I can't teach you emotional intelligence unless you see the value of being emotionally intelligent and what's it costing you not to be emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
So for the gentleman that you've been having this awesome dialogue with, I'm going to throw it back to you. I'm an employee over here. I'm looking for somebody to hire. What's the one thing about you that you would want me to know that when I say, okay, I'm going to sign a check for you and hire you at $100,000 a year?
The one aspect that I bring to the table is that I am a visionary. If anything, I'm a visionary. I'm a solutionary. I come to the table and basically bring hope, man. Like the ability to speak to the ability to discern where people are at, and then speak to the goodness that is within them and cause them to elevate. So that's something that I did a lot in the Air Force and just being out in the world, just in general.
Awesome. I might consider hiring you for real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, because here's the thing I'm listening for. I'm listening for what you are going to bring me that will help to take my company to the next level.
Yes.
That's number one. That's a great value proposition. Number two, I'm also listening to you're not in this for yourself only. Yes, you also want clearly, yes, you want to get paid. But you're more interested in helping me. And the more you help me is the more I can help you. Does that make sense? Because now
Yes.
I can drop you in the middle of, you know, of Botswana, and I can have you start a company if I give you help. Because you're a visionary and because you're solutionary. Does that make sense? To
Yes. Yes, that makes sense. And that's how I look when people come to me and they wanted advice. I noticed that some people came to me and they said, Mo, how can I get promoted? I listened to them and I'm like, okay, but I had different individuals come to me, said, Mo, how can I elevate my people? They got my ear. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to. So those are the individuals I ended up pouring into.
Yes.
Those who wanted to see, they were very concerned about the health, welfare, and the elevation of their people. And that touched me.
Yeah.
And it inspired me.
I love what you said, Mo, because here's the thing. A company is only as good as its people.
Yeah.
I don't care how much technology you have. Microsoft is as good as it is because of its people, not because of the technology. And I'm afraid in this world of AI that we're getting more and more away from that. And I remember Bill Gates and Zuckerberg said the most important thing you're going to have to work on in the next millennia is developing people, nurturing people. Because as AI rises, people will become less important. And when people become less important, they feel devalued. Not that they are devalued, they feel devalued. And they need to have some place to go where they can feel valued again.
You know, that is such a powerful point that you just made, Dr. Joy, and the conversation that you and Mo are having. It is so important. You know, I always tell my clients that if you are in leadership, you have got to be an extraordinary follower and to be an exceptional leader.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have anyone who is willing to follow you, you've got to ask yourself, is it because I have not shown them that I'm part of the ranks as well? Or can be part of the ranks as well, in addition to stepping out when I need to lead the charge. That is just so important. You know, when you look to assume that role in leadership. And the other thing is, and I've had several women approach me about this subsequent to having sat on a corporate board, and I was the only woman on the board. And I'm getting this feedback of, we're watching you. So there was a perceived value that those who are in other ranks and tiers in an organization, or maybe even a community, who are watching you. So you always have to govern yourself as if you are standing center stage in the spotlight. And that goes for men as well. You know, there's characteristics that people will pull out and see and emulate that they see in you or mirror in you. So if you're aspiring to reach or attain a certain level, part of that in your value proposition has to be that characteristic of, one, I'm teachable, but two, I can follow as well as I can lead. And how well what are the results, going back to the value proposition of what happens when you lead?
Yeah. That's a really, really good point, Gail, that you mentioned, because leadership is a skill set.
It is.
It is a skill set. It's a skill set that can be learned, but it's also instinctual. And I wish we could get, I always think about going back and nurturing this next generation to become leaders of themselves. Because we are losing a lot of awesome talent that's not being nurtured. I love corporations who will adopt schools and say, you know, okay, we will teach you, come and be part of our corporation. And they teach them from very young the skills that are needed to be taught. You know, but getting back to the value proposition, there's a part that I thought we just discussed. The value proposition is always fluid. It is never fixed. The value proposition is always fluid. It is never fixed. So just because you have this great skill set today, that doesn't mean that you don't have to keep adjusting it as the times are adjusting, as you are growing, as the company is growing. Because this what you bring to the table for company X, you might have exhausted that. But you want to, okay, where else can I use that?
Yeah.
And Gail and I know being an entrepreneur is not easy.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to jump out and then do their own business, but it is hard work and you work 24/7 and you're on the skinny branches by yourself. And for me, and Gail as well, it's just you and God sometimes. And you just say, I don't know how we're going to put one foot in front of the other, but Father, just help me. Please help me. And then, in our case, he opens the door.
You
So
know, I'm
yeah.
sorry, go ahead, Dr. Joy.
No, but so along the way, I cannot be amiss without mentioning the power of faith. Not faith in yourself per se, but for me, it's a faith in a higher power. But just faith in knowing who you are, grounded in who you are, and grounded in a higher being, that it's all going to work out.
Mhm.
Even if the times are hard, it's all going to work out. You have to have that uncommon faith, unwavering, unshakable. It's all going to work out.
Yeah.
Even if you have to move, you're covered. Why? Because you're covered.
Yeah,
Does that
absolutely.
make sense to everybody, what I'm saying? I don't want to step over anything. I know Joe is nodding her head, but I can't see anybody else. So,
Mic to the rest of the group and hear your thoughts. This, in fact, is open mic.
mhm.
So we'd love to hear some of your other comments from folks who have joined us today. Please don't be shy. Oh, by the way, we do record these sessions. They are free and you can hear them on the website in a couple of days. Miss Ocean, please join us in the conversation.
Hi, good afternoon. I have a question for you, Gail, or you, Dr. Joy. How are the soft skills different when you are an entrepreneur working for yourself as opposed to working for a company?
That's a great question. They're not. Soft skills are soft skills no matter where. You need them for your own company. So can you say a little bit more?
Yes, well, I'm presently in the position of I'm an attorney, and I've recently, within the last 6 months, gone off on my own. So as you both have indicated, the skill set is there, but I'm still actively developing what skills I need or what qualities I need to set myself aside or apart from other attorneys who have the same years of experience, the same type of resume in terms of clients.
Okay, very, very good. So you made a list of all of the great skills that you have, right?
Yes.
Great. Look at what do you think? And you know that you're comparable with any attorney out there, right? What is your niche? What kind of attorney are you?
I'm a family law attorney.
Family law. Oh,
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you. Yes, we need you. We need you. I deal with, on the other end with couples divorces. We need you. Okay. So as a family law attorney, going after and what's your ideal client? Who is your avatar?
My ideal client, usually I represent clients that are custodial or have recently been custodial. That seems to be my usual client base.
Okay. And if I'm one of those clients to you, what are you doing for me?
Developing a plan. I always go into a strategy, not just filing a bunch of motions and seeing what sticks, but really talking to the client at the beginning of the case about what their goals are and how we're going to reach that. Is this going to be through resolution or is this going to be litigated? And especially if it's going to be litigated cost-wise and results-wise, of putting a plan into place of exactly what the client is looking for, in terms of kids, in terms of financial settlement at the very beginning, and having those ongoing discussions through the case.
Excellent. So as your client, can you do that in a manner for me that's faster, better, not, in a sense? In other words, I'm trying to help you beat your competition.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
Do you handhold me through the process? That's a soft skill.
Mhm.
Can you give me confidence as I go through this horrible experience with my, former partner?
Mhm.
Can you give me access to amazing resources that will help me with my children? So these are some of the, these are would be considered some of the soft skills. It's your
Mhm.
capacity to be compassionate
Yeah.
Mhm.
and to sell that.
And one of the other things you have to look at is what does your village look like? Who is in your village? Who are you mutually feeding? They feed you, you feed
Mhm.
them. That's how business is done. And when I coach clients in business who are just starting out, know that you just didn't get off the spaceship. You've been here for a while, so you know the technical side of it. But it's different when you're out here on your own in your own shingle versus with a larger firm that everybody recognizes and kowtows to and bows and genuflects.
Mhm.
You are the brand. So what is it that your brand needs to look like? And whether you are an entrepreneur or whether you are working as that senior executive in an organization, you still have to create your own brand, because you never know when one day you will have to step out on your own by choice or not. And once you understand, and I would say also, look at what some of your competition is doing out there. Are they holding the hand? Are they giving the empathetic service? They're showing the human side of it. What are they doing not?
Right. Exactly. The other side of that, though, the business side, though, Gail, is get really familiar with your judges.
Yes.
Your judges are
Yes.
your leaders.
Mhm.
So I would say spend time having lunch with some of your favorite judges in the family code.
There's quite a few running for office now too.
Oh, yes.
There are.
Right. So because that is all about relationships.
Mhm.
Whether you are in a business, working in corporate, or like yourself, branching out, everything starts with a relationship.
Yeah.
And everything ends with a relationship.
Mhm.
And what can you do? And that's why understanding the value proposition is so important, because it's always about what's in it for me and what's my cut or the benefit of saying yes to you. Let me jump to Megan real quick. Thank you for
Thank you both.
Oh, you're welcome.
Megan.
Was that helpful to you?
Very helpful. Thank you. Very good advice.
Megan.
Hello. Yes. So I love the idea of the soft skills as part of the value proposition. But if there are the top three, then how do you differentiate yourself? How do you pick what's the most important to kind of rise to the top?
What's important to you? What three are important to you? If you look at your soft skills.
I would say, for me, it's a lot about listening. I work in the technology field, and it's a lot of solution creation. And I have a team of people that I manage. And so I would say listening, and then being able to oftentimes be a liaison, like understanding maybe a customer and then translating it for my foreign company.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that's right on point. I'm sorry, Dr. Joy.
Go ahead.
I think that's right on point, because that L word is the one I've been looking for this entire session. And Megan, you nailed it. I'm a Lean Six Sigma practitioner, and I run into people all the time who say, I know the solution. We're done, when they haven't even listened to what the problem is. So,
I do find that, I'm so sorry. I do find that when I listen and others speak up, in my industry, it's very male dominated, very, 60-year-old white man. And so when I try to take that approach to listen, others feel as a weakness and kind of try to jump in. So I don't know how to stay, kind of calm and at that level without being looked at like as a weakness.
What I used to do, I sat on a board where I was the only woman for 24 years. And I found a couple of guys on the board, my peers, who became advocates. And we would play a chess game. And there were some messages that I had to deliver through them or with them in tandem, simply because the odds were against me from the count. One woman, all these men. But it didn't take away from the fact that part of my value proposition is I'm a very good puppeteer. So as a leader and executive, you have to learn how to move and manipulate the players. And the question sometimes would be, well, don't you want to get credit for? I said, no, you'll make sure I get the credit. And when they'd open up their conversations, there was always that segue of Gail and I were talking, or Gail, do you have anything to add to it? Nobody knew what was going on except for me and my partners who were playing a puppet show. So you've got to learn how to become a puppeteer, to manage your value proposition so that the messaging, the skill sets, the results happen again and again in your favor. Sometimes it takes longer. Dr. Joy, what do you think on that?
No, absolutely. And as I'm listening, right? Listening and trust go together. If you can find, like Gail is saying, partners, yeah? But if you can listen to them differently, listen for what is important to them. It may have nothing to do with the job at all.
Right.
But if they can come and talk to you about something personal, you got them.
You got them.
You got them. Because now you are taking an interest in them, not as the CEO or the C-suite person, right? But people don't have a lot of people that they can talk to. People don't have a lot of people that they can talk to and trust. If you can become that trusted ear, I believe you can get just about anything you want.
Yeah.
Because you are listening to them from a different place, not from a place where they think that you should be, because it's all posturing, right? So you want to neutralize that posturing and say, listen, it's just me and you here. What's really going on?
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like I've spent so much of my time pulling together a group of women in my industry, and we have a large enough organization, and I lean on my women leaders and friends and mentees and mentors. But I love the idea of just finding someone that maybe does have a voice and partnering with them. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Very good advice.
It's called finding common ground.
Yeah. Always set next to the biggest influencer at the table. Initially, it was by accident, but as time went on, it was intentional. Because I could whisper in his ear, he could lean over and whisper in mine, and we would be brainstorming. But when we talked out loud, you know what we talked about? Our children, and then our grandchildren. We humanized it.
Yes.
We humanized the relationship. And when the companies separated for a while, my influencers stepped back, but when we came back together, they came back. One of the biggest influencers, when he walked in the room, our first meeting, he didn't speak to anybody. He zoned right in on me. He came in and hugged me, wouldn't let me go. He said, I really, really missed you. Sat down next to me, and everybody just kind of sat there looking like, what just happened here?
Yeah.
And they thought, well, the quiet little lady over here, you know, we're not going to pay her any attention. And then the biggest influencer in the room came in and gave me a hug.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because what came up for me when you said that, there are two things that can shift any human being. Number one is your humanity, and number two is your authenticity, the ability to be authentic. But that requires that you be a little bit vulnerable, but not weak. There's a difference between being vulnerable and being weak. A lot of it has to do with your voice tone and your command of yourself.
Yes.
And that can be developed. Because you can have the softest voice tone, but be the most powerful person in the room.
Exactly. I'm going to date myself and say it's like being E.F. Hutton. You know, they said when E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen.
Yes.
E.F. evidently didn't speak very often. But when E.F. Hutton spoke, people listened. And you have to speak. Yeah, I do a whole session on women in leadership, because there's a certain way we have to speak. There's a certain way we have to sit. You have to show up, not only physically, but emotionally. So that is part of the unwritten rule of engagement when it comes to value proposition. And we have to all think about it, whether you are young, whether you are seasoned, whether you are of whatever ethnicity or lifestyle. There is a value proposition that we don't leave behind when we walk in the room, but we pull out of our little toolbox called value proposition those characteristics that we need to fit the scenario for us. And if we're not able to do that, then this may not be a scenario we need to be in or step into.
Yeah.
So you have to also keep that in mind.
Yeah. Gail, can I add something? I would like everybody here to study the behavior of a chameleon. A chameleon, most of us get locked in that we need to be in a certain culture. That's not true. You have to be fluid with your cultures.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's the one value proposition that's I can say. Be fluid with the different cultures. They're not going to bite you and they're not going to hurt you. Why? Because they're not, unless you let them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Gail, we're getting ready to take our value proposition global, right?
We are. We are. Dr. Joy and I are going to be both speaking in London in a couple of weeks. And I'm so excited. And as you can see on the screen, and I moved this to about 45 minutes. We are almost out of time. So I want to share with you all that we meet the second Thursday of every month. I want to truly acknowledge Ray, who is on the line. He's been quiet today, and Maurice, who have literally been at almost every one of our podcast events and joined in as active speakers and participants. Thank you for joining us. Please spread the word. Let's move this needle. As leaders, as executives, as entrepreneurs, as just people who want to meet our goals. And Dr. Joy, if someone wants to reach out to you post session, post podcast, how can they do that? I have it on the screen, but why don't you share that out loud with them?
They can always email me at baronessproductionsinc@gmail.com. They can call me at 786-209-3318, and also on my website, www.drjoycoaching.com, and I'm always on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can always reach me at 954-476-3525 or info@cma-ent.com. But we'd love for you to come visit the website at www.cma-ent.com. we are collaborative partners, Dr. Joy and I. And I can tell you, it has been an extremely great experience working with you. Ladies and gentlemen, please spread the word. Please join us. If we had a conversation that really struck a nerve in a good way with you, please come back next month and register for our session in October. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you in the conversation. Steve, thank you so much.
Yes, Steve.
For working in the background on us. Steve is our digital man. And we do have these sessions on the website so that you can rehear any past sessions, and you probably will see some familiar faces. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Gail. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
You're welcome.
Hi, Woody.
Woody.
Hey, I got here late.
I know, I saw you pop in.
Better late than not, right? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm holding it down.
I
There
hear
you go. There you go.
Good
Well,
job, ladies.
The only thing I can do is I see you on, I can keep up with you on Facebook. That's about it. So.
Whatever works these days, right?
True.
Okay, Dr. Joy, good job, hon. Good job.
Oh, thanks. That was so much fun.
You know we were winging it, right?
Completely. But
That's
that's
the
what,
best way.
Gail,
That's
having
just nice.
our value proposition, right?
We good at winging it, but
We're good. We've been rolling enough along with each other to know, what's what. I didn't get to see what was in the chat.
let's see. Can you see?
Yeah, it's still there if you click on it.
It is still there. Yeah. Click on the chat. No matter how